Map callouts are something of a mystery to me. Who are you calling short? I don't want to play checkers with you. I don't know which corner of quad you're referring to, nor do I know where clitoris is. But I'm not alone. It turns out that most Counter-Strike players struggle to find these spots, let alone how to use them effectively. So the question I ask in this video is, where is kitchen? Is kitchen the market where the shop is? Or is it in gay spot in apartments, where there's actually a kitchen? It shouldn't be a problem because CSGO has had this lovely feature for years. Embedded in the bot navigation file for the map you're playing on is this, showing the name of the location you're currently stood in up in the top left corner of your screen at all times. This makes it easy to shout out your location whenever you need to. Though I think it would be even better if it showed the name of wherever it is that you're aiming. Valve, please fix. You'd think that would help to unify the callout locations, but this doesn't help when the rest of the community is calling those place names something different, and have been since long before CSGO came out. Plus, even if you've memorised the names of places, what good is that if your teammates haven't? Being the oblivious player that I am, I must admit that I haven't memorised most location names. It sits somewhere far down my to-do list, probably along with other things like learning setup grenade throws, tidying my room, and completing Destruction Darius 2. One you might have heard of is Diggity, which refers to this spot in Australian Counter-Strike. And this one. And this one. And literally anywhere else they want it to be. The European equivalent of Diggity would probably be Gay Spot, which seems to be any location where you're killed from. One callout I've heard used time and time again on Mirage is Kitchen, which is somewhere around the B site. Exactly where is a bit of a mystery because it isn't officially shown on screen anywhere. The upper route is called Apartment, and the CT approach is called Shop. So where is Kitchen? I found a Reddit post today asking exactly that, and rather reassuringly, they couldn't agree on where Kitchen was either. Apparently, Shop used to be called Kitchen because it had floor tiles and a bench. Kind of like any room in Counter-Strike, if you ask me. But it seems like in recent years, Shop has had its name Kitchen swapped out for Market, even though, in my opinion, where the bomb is planted should be a market, because I can imagine lots of market stalls being set up there when people aren't busy killing each other. A much more suitable place for Kitchen to be, in my opinion, would be where there's a kitchen just here in apartments. But to say that's where it is would be simplifying a very complicated and confused topic. Problem is, calling out place names in CSGO shouldn't be complicated and confusing, since it being those things works against the purpose of using callouts in a fast-paced action game in the first place. As a YouTuber, I don't want to further the confusion in my own videos. As much as I can, I research the most commonly used place names and stick with that in the hope of unifying what they're called. Or sometimes I avoid the whole issue entirely by using generic terms like CT entrance or whatever. I hope we can unite and agree on place names, since I do think it would be for the greater good. But then again, I also want everybody speaking English and using metric, and we all know that's never going to happen. Since I will probably never have a better chance of talking about this, allow me to go off on a tangent about the English language. I used to hate new words. When stuff like muck job was added to the dictionary, I was all like, no, you can't do that, since I saw it as the English language being dumbed down. I particularly hated how two words would be fused together and called a new one. Ginormous, for instance. That isn't a word. That's gigantic fused with enormous. It wasn't until A-level that I changed my mind. There, I had a lot of respect for my English teacher. You'd think of all people he'd be against changes to the English language, but he actively embraced it. It seems ridiculous that people want English to remain the same forever when, up until now, it's done nothing but change. And not just by a little bit. Before the Great Vowel Shift, everybody spoke like villagers on Age of Empires. And while we see English as a language, it's actually more like a collage of every language that's ever invaded us. It's actually made English a really rubbish, confusing language that doesn't make a lot of sense. In the English language, you could technically pronounce goatee as fish, because you get the F sound from enough, I sound from women, and sh sound from intuition, and so on. To add to the confusion, for some unknown reason, sometime between 300 and 600 years ago, the English language underwent the Great Vowel Shift. Listening to English from before this time, I can barely understand what they're trying to say. It's like listening to a villager in Age of Empires. Yet after the shift, it sounds about the same as the English spoken today. There are theories as to why this happened, like blaming the youth of the day, or the Black Death, or even worse, the French. It would help if we could speak to people who were alive back then, but unfortunately I've checked and it seems like most of them are now dead. So yeah, I learned to tolerate, and even to embrace, change to the English language. When it comes to American spellings, as much as I joke about them being wrong, I accept them as being okay. I just wish that Americans would give the same amount of respect back to the English variants instead of correcting me every time I say stuff like Z. So English as a language has continually changed and evolved over time, based on what people say and do. And, with language at least, I think that's the right way to be. The opposite of this would be somewhere like France, which literally has an academy that tries to keep the French language pure by deciding what goes into a dictionary. Ultimately, in an ever more connected world, I think that language will all slowly merge into one. There might still be weird dialects in far out places like the rainforests and Cornwall, but hopefully even they will still be able to understand the basics of Panglish. But the point I'm trying to make is, place names in Counter-Strike aren't necessarily clear-cut. To fully understand them, you need a huge amount of context and knowledge about the game, and you can't exactly call someone wrong for calling shop kitchen even though the only literal kitchen is actually in apartments. But the problem is, I find this sort of confusion works against the very point of using place names in Counter-Strike in the first place. They're meant to relay important snippets of information quickly to teammates, and if you have to explain for 10 minutes why you think market is kitchen, then it doesn't work anymore. And, if you still don't think this is important, allow me to share a heartbreaking story posted on the CSGO subreddit 5 years ago. The round is 14-15. We need one more round on CT to draw the game and continue my quest to Eagle. My whole team dies, but with exceptional spray control I'm able to take down 4 terrorists on the B site as they tried a traditional split. Last one, kitchen! I position my crosshair into the apartments. Kitchen, you f***ing idiot! Yeah, I'm waiting, I'm not going to rush him, am I? Kitchen! I get shot in the back from the shop. Delete CS. Sorry. So what can we do about this? Well, I don't have much faith in players working together to agree on call-out locations, since we haven't managed to do this in all the years we've been playing the game. In fact, I think that Valve is in the best position to do something about it, or at least to reduce confusion. After all, I feel like they're the ones responsible for the kitchen mess in the first place. The map had a place called Kitchen before Valve remade the map, and not only did they not put a kitchen where Kitchen was, but they put a kitchen somewhere else that wasn't called Kitchen, and then they didn't even add Kitchen to the nav mesh where they had added a kitchen. No wonder it's confusing. So Valve really should do something about it to make the callouts easier for all of us. They should embrace community culture, to accept that CSGO, much like the English language, isn't fixed in time, but is instead a continually changing construct. If people call a place boiler, then they should add a boiler there. If they call it dark, make it dark. And if they call it gay spot, then... To give them credit, they have already helped in some places by giving spots memorable features that the community has accepted and embraced. So it can be done. I wonder if that's one of the reasons for adding graffitis, honestly. I suggest, whatever happens, that we work towards agreeing on place names to improve communication in the game. But in order for this to work, there will have to be compromise. No stubbornly sticking to gay spot once it's renamed cubby. No diggitying in dark spot. I for one am happy to sacrifice what few place names I know for the greater good. So let's all drop our pride and unite to try and make learning place names easier for everyone. It will be like Counter-Strike's equivalent of Esperanto. But good.